All right. So I do feel like there's already so much that we've already like kind of touched on and weaved in that I was going to name and share already in this whole masterclass. So I do feel like one of the main things about embodied liberation that I wanted to bring through is the sense of like grounding our spirit fully into our bodies. Because I feel like sometimes when we think about our journeys and we think about the word even liberation, it feels like either escaping the physical experience or like ascending beyond it. But today I'm going to invite you just to focus on descending deep into the body and how we can start to really liberate our expression, our choices, our sense of self out into the world more fully and more wholly. Because I do feel like liberating ourselves is also liberating ourselves, like what Liliana spoke about, like the conditioning and the ways of society. Like we're always going to be in relationship to whether it's the people around us or the circumstances in our home or society and our work environments. Like we're always going to be up against and in relationship to everything and everyone else around us. So when we're talking about liberating ourselves, I just want to be really mindful about the way that I even speak about it because I don't want it to be like spiritually bypassing the current reality that we're a part of and that we do need to learn how to navigate. So I think it's really important to just really approach this from a very grounded and rooted perspective of how to honor the body along the journey that we're all on. We might be all coming from different stories and different experiences. And even if there is like trauma held in the body, just know that I am going to be approaching everything from a very like trauma informed perspective. So just knowing that we're not seeking to escape to liberate ourselves, we're seeking to drop in and explore and really um, connect with our truer expression and our true being and learning how to bring that out into the world more truly and fully. And so the three main words that I'd like you to really tune into is the sense of pausing, listening, and then choosing. So when we take a moment of pause, even right now, you can take a moment of pause and you can close your eyes if you feel comfortable in doing so. And really letting your awareness to drop from your mind, dropping down into your heart, or down even further into your belly or your womb. And just taking a moment to listen to any of the sensations that may be present for you in your physical somatic experience. So our emotional body and our mental body are very much deeply connected with our physical bodies. And so when you are taking this moment of pause and listening, you're listening to sensation, but you're also listening to possible emotions and feelings that may be held in the body. And learning to listen in this way is so important. So just continue to breathe into any sensations that may be there for you. And even if you're having a little bit of a trouble connecting with your physical somatic experience, you can notice what it feels like for you to be on this call. Notice even what it feels like for you to be in the room that you're in. And if it feels uncomfortable to have your eyes closed, you can keep your eyes open. And just take a moment to notice your surroundings. And just listening to any little bit of sensation that might be present for you. It might be in the belly, it might be in the chest. And if it's too much to stand still, you can also start to create little circles with your upper torso. Noticing if little circles start to create a shift in your somatic experience. And knowing you have a choice in anything that I'm offering you as well. So choosing is more important than doing. So just noticing whatever you'd like to choose to drop you a little bit deeper into this present moment awareness that we're cultivating here together. And knowing that your physical body holds so much wisdom and so much awareness. It's receiving information all of the time. So even if you may be processing things from earlier in the day, just letting your body naturally unwind at its own pace and in its own time, not needing to rush the process in any way. And if you are focusing in on a certain sensation or a certain feeling, just really breathing into that space, taking 2 nice deep breaths into that space, and just allowing your body to know and affirm, I am here and I am listening. I am here and I am listening. And it's so important for us to continue to affirm this to ourselves, that we are genuinely present and we are genuinely listening. And just taking one last deep breath here in this experience and slowly drawing your awareness back, knowing that you can come back to this pause, listen, and choose as many times as you need to throughout your days. All right, so gently drawing yourself back. I just want to offer a few more definitions. So defining the sense of pleasure and defining the sense of sensuality and our senses in relationship to the two. So our senses, when I speak about the senses, it's what we're hearing, it's what we're seeing, it's what we're smelling, what we're tasting, what we're feeling on our bodies or on our skin. And so really connecting with the senses is a really powerful way to bring ourselves back into the present and back into even a state of pleasure. So with pleasure, it's connecting with feelings of happiness, of enjoyment, of satisfaction. So there's so many ways we can attune ourselves to states of pleasure, and that can even be through listening to music and dancing or connecting with certain food that we enjoy and really taking the time in the moment to let the taste buds attune themselves to all of the different flavors. Or the atmosphere we create for ourselves when it comes to lighting candles and incense, and maybe surrounding ourselves with certain visual paintings or galaxy lights, and surrounding ourselves with plants and nature or whatever it is within our senses that really attunes us to this state of enjoyment and fulfillment at a deeper level. And so when we are even connecting with the senses and pleasure, we are coming down into the sacral chakra. So we are really activating the sacral chakra to experience a sense of joy and happiness. And I will speak this more on a level of the personal body, and you can always bring this into relationship with another as well. But I think the deeper that you can really form this like intimate relationship with your own physical body and with your own senses, and really noticing what it is that soothes you. Because I think that when we are cultivating this really gentle opening for pleasure, we can also start to really build this into our nervous system and into our natural attunement. So the more that we orientate ourselves towards pleasure, we're starting to expand our nervous system's capacity to actually be able to receive it and hold it and cultivate like a relationship with it. And I think the more that we can like pause and slow down and really take our time to let that sensation of pleasure in to our physical body, like almost like attuning yourself. Let's say if you have a candle lit, just attuning yourself to that candle, like really taking time with it. Because I think we're so rushed. Sometimes even when I notice myself in a more heightened state, like I'll just like want to do a ritual, but I'll be like lighting the candle, lighting the incense. I'll be turning the music on, turning the galaxy light on. I'll be doing all these things. But I'm not even taking time to like take that moment with the candle or take that moment with the incense. So I think the slowing down piece and the pausing and the actually letting it into our biology is like really, really important to continue to like let it into our beings more deeply to like create like almost um a true and real experience of that moment. It's almost like encoding it. So I think sometimes we need to slow down to really encode something into our biology for that to start to expand more fully into our physical body as well. And then the last definition I'll bring through is sensuality. And this is where pleasure can start to become a little bit more with the enjoyment of expression through like more physical touch. It could also go towards sharing intimacy with another or sexuality and dropping into pleasure, like I would say more with um, either with yourself more intimately or with a partner more intimately. So our sensuality is also connected to our senses, but I do think that it's more engaging with the body through touch. So you can also offer this to yourself in moments where you just need to maybe slow it down. You can also place hands on your shoulders, taking those breaths with your body. So really knowing how to pause and listen and then choose into whatever I'm naming right now, whatever stands out to you that you feel like curious about exploring with yourself. But I think even the moments where you do maybe cultivate that sense of self-touch with your own hands on your shoulders or moving down your arms, that's also a really gentle way of attuning your body back into more of a state of regulation. So even if you are like listening into your body and you're noticing like you can't really orientate yourself towards what's happening, you're like really overwhelmed or really stressed or really scared and like things are just way too much for you and you can't even like take in what's going on in the physical body. Like one really gentle way of reattuning yourself to the body is just by placing your hands on your chest and on your heart or on your belly and just really like almost like you were touching a baby or touching a child, like bringing that level of gentle touch and sensuality into the body with yourself and creating that level of intimacy might also open up. Like for me, in those moments, it's opened up a lot of different grief that can come up, a lot of anger, a lot of sadness, like whatever it is that's kind of blocked in the state of stress can start to rise up to the surface because when our bodies soften and they attune themselves back into pleasure and gentleness, then it creates more of a pathway of opening for maybe there to be some nourishment received in the body, but also for the emotions that want to liberate themselves and move to actually have the space to do so. So also liberation comes in for letting our emotions come up to the surface for us to actually feel them. So we don't want to suppress our emotions. We don't want to hide away from them. We don't want to disconnect from them, even though sometimes we have very great mechanisms in doing so. We all have our own internal mechanisms and defense systems that come through. But when you are exploring the body, it is going to really maybe bring up some complex feelings and even bringing that sensuality to your own body might bring up some complex feelings that want to be moved and processed. So I think always knowing that your physical body is directly connected into the subconscious mind. So the two are very much linked together. So when we are talking about the body, we're also bringing it into this unconscious realm of different imprints and different experiences that might be there. So it's a very vast area of exploration when it comes to honoring the physical body, and especially if there is a history of trauma, like even just placing your hands on your shoulders with yourself to breathe into that, even beginning to bring sensation into the shoulders and seeing how that feels. Like trauma can be a very gentle process of unwinding and um, giving yourself the time, if there is trauma, just for your natural body to unwind and to feel supported. And one way to support yourself is through your own touch and like building that intimacy with yourself. Um, and so I spoke about this already at the beginning of the call, but I'll say it again. So to engage our physical senses can be a great way to actually break the loops that we get stuck on. So if you notice yourself just spiraling and spinning and looping in the mind, is that's a moment where you can choose to pause and then even make a list of the choices you'd want to make. Like if you were to think about things that bring pleasure, that bring your senses engaged, and that bring you a sense of sensuality, like you can make a list just only focusing on that. Like, what is it that genuinely brings me pleasure? And it might be very different for me than it is for anyone else on this call and for everyone else in the world. So just really attuning yourself to your own inner spirit, your own inner body, and the complexity that you hold within, it's going to look very different for all of us. So just giving yourself freedom to explore um, what it is that you can choose into in those moments when there is like a loop that's happening. That might be like, I guess like the ego wants to keep feeding that loop. It wants to keep giving it life and it wants to keep spiraling you in that direction. But the one muscle that I think is really important to build is the muscle of choice and conscious choice in that moment. So maybe sometimes there are things that actually genuinely need to be processed and they genuinely need to come up to the surface. And by connecting with the body, that might create the space for the tears to come up. It might create the space for the anger to arise. But if you are noticing that sense of like looping and spiraling and spinning on some level, then I think a really great way to kind of redirect that is through what I've already named on the call with the physical body, like really taking time with the body. And with your own self-touch, it can move so much emotion through you, even if you are spinning, just kind of almost as if you were nurturing a child. Like you want to bring that same level of energy to your own body. And you'll notice that there's emotions that need to rise to the surface and be processed, or there might be like more of a conscious choice you can create for tending and nurturing your own self. And that can look in so many different ways. So I would say really, yeah, creating a list to really explore like what pleasure means to you specifically, what enjoyment, what excitement, and what sense of like maybe even gentleness you need to bring into your life. And the gentleness can come in through the senses. So what you can maybe listen to or what you can create for yourself, even in the atmosphere around you, just to really start to grow that threshold. You want to grow the threshold for pleasure and build that relationship intimately with yourself as well. And yeah, oh, so much there already. But I feel like in creating these levels of intimacy with your own body, it's also ways that you can start to relate with other people. So you can also bring this sense of attunement and understanding into relationships as well, which is a whole other level of exploring your sensuality or your pleasure, but in relationship to another. But it does get a little bit more complex there because then it's two people that are needing to be more conscious and connected to themselves to really know what it is that's needed and what it is that's coming up. But I think when it comes to seeing our physical bodies as the temple that is holding our spirit. So if you were seeing your physical body as the temple, what is the energy that you would want to come to devote to this temple each and every day? What's the energy that you'd want to feed it and give it and nurture it with and love it with? Because this is what starts to really build in the cellular and neurophysiological encoding of the energetics that you are actually intentionally seeking to create with yourself. So it's like treating your physical body as a sacred space to really come home into yourself. Like let your spirit fully land into the body, but to come back fully into the body, it also needs to be like a sacred space for us. And so when I speak about this, I know it can also become complex because the three chakras that I've written down is the sacral, the heart, and the crown. You know, because there's love you want to bring in through your senses and connect with, but you also really want to anchor in that sense of your higher power and your higher spirit to create this sacredness for you as well. But there's also the foundation that we need to actually do that. So that sense of stability and that sense of safety in our environment and in our lives. So even moving towards that root chakra, like how to nurture the root chakra connects also straight into the physical body. So really noticing what it is that can support you to feel more safe and solid in your daily life or in yourself. For me, at one point, it was just going outside and finding my one tree. That was my tree for a year of my life that was just holding me down. When I felt like I couldn't do that at home, I just went outside and I found that one tree that was like my main spot to go to. So I think even cultivating these senses of pleasure and connection with the nature around us in the natural world, whether it be through flowers or through trees or through animals, there's so many ways to explore of what I'm speaking about, of like the sense of stability and safety, and also resourcing ourselves from our environment in a way that can start to just grow that threshold and that capacity a little bit every day, which I think in the moments when you are maybe overwhelmed and stressed, it might not feel like a lot, but in the long run, if you're doing this every single day and you're really showing up for these kinds of practices, then in the long run, you are expanding this threshold and this capacity within your being to really start to almost like create more of a state of empowerment on what you do want to move towards and what you do want to experience in your life. And even if it's just sitting in that level of stillness and that pause outside somewhere in nature that you know you can feel safe in, or that you feel like you have your privacy in, I think it's just really important to orientate yourself in that direction, because the earth and our creator is always seeking to continue to anchor us into like a state of natural harmony and natural balance. I just think there's a lot of like factors in our societal structure that might take us out of that alignment and out of that harmony. But I think naturally in our most um, harmonic state of resonance, like we're naturally meant to be anchored into the earth and anchored into our higher selves to support us and guide us along the way. And so I think creating that sense of um, embodiment and liberation at the same time, it does require like a very fine balance between honoring the earth realm and honoring the physical body, and then honoring the spirit and the way the spirit seeks to move. Sometimes the spirit moves through emotion, sometimes the spirit moves through prayer or intention, or just sitting and resting and being and absorbing life. Or taking actions in a certain direction as well. So just really noticing like that sense of where your spirit leads you and guides you as well. Because in those moments when you pause and listen, that's the moment where you're going to receive also deeper insight on like what is it that your spirit genuinely wants or genuinely needs. And sometimes we need to open up the blockages in the chakra system to really let the emotions move through us so that there's more space for our spirit to come in. And that's like a whole other level of liberating ourselves, is like letting the emotions that are stagnant or that are blocked really rise up to the surface so that they can move. So that's where it is the path of like descending down into the body and really letting it all move through naturally and at its own time and in its own way. So we don't need to rush anything or force anything. It's just letting it more so naturally happen as we pause and listen, and then continue to choose into things that actually feel supportive and honoring of our being. So that is the download that wanted to come through. I'm happy to answer like any questions or any comments or go deeper onto any specific topic if there's anything that you'd want to know more about or anything that you need clarifications around. Then I'm really open to answering. So you can either like put it on the chat or put your hand up as well. I see you, Lillian.
Oof. Yeah, this is like, I'm kind of moving through something right now. And this like really is a good reminder of like, kind of like how when we're in like, when we don't take that pause to really tune into what we actually need, sometimes we can like quickly grab something that like we want to soothe ourselves, but we don't have time to like think about what's good for us. So like we can go for something that's not in best alignment, and then but it's like pleasure, like we want to feel good and we're stressed. So like for example, like you eat something that's not good for you and then you have the repercussions after, but you can prevent that by really taking the time to be like, wait, what do I actually need? Maybe I just need to like soothe myself. So right now I kind of have a bit of like a negative relationship with the word pleasure just right now because, and I'm like thinking instead of pleasure, it's like self-soothing. Like, what do I need to like self-soothe? Um, I ended up on a few days ago, like, because I have like an autoimmune thing, and then there are certain foods that I react to, and I hadn't had chocolate in so long, like in probably over a year. And then I had some chocolate, and the problem with chocolate is I don't react with it to it the next day. I react to it 2 days later, but it's like a very severe reaction. So I'm kind of going through like I've been going through a severe reaction the last 2 days. And I'm like, when I had a little bit, I was like, oh, this is so good, blah, blah. But then I ended up having more because I was like, oh, I think I'm like cured and I'm probably not going to react to it. And then I woke up and I was like, oh no, like what did I do to myself? Now I'm like, yeah. But then I ended up spending the whole day like, I was like, okay, well, I know I'm going to get through this. I ended up writing a lot. I wrote
Mm,
like some poems to help me like cope. And
mm,
it went into the themes of like like what we like sometimes desire or like we want things but they're not fully in alignment with us and we know they're gonna like they have repercussions. So like how do we prevent that in like our relationship with pleasure, our relationship with ourselves and with like tuning into ourselves. And yeah, this is just like I really feel I need to like even this like pause of like now I have had to like be home for a couple days and then like I've forced my body to like be in pause mode. And like I think that when I don't take that time to do that enough and take care of myself like regularly, then something like this happens, like I get sick or something, and then it's like your body's like, oh, now you have no choice but to
mhm,
like sit with your emotions and to sit with like kind of recalibrate yourself.
mhm,
So yeah, I think,
mm,
yeah, I'm grateful for this call. I made some notes.
mm, mhm,
Well, um, yeah.
mhm. Well, yeah, what I'm hearing in that is like a sense of forgiving your humanness in the moments we
Mhm.
all get to be human as well. And, given our like circumstances or our life, the way it happens or moves around us and through us, it's like, yeah, like really cultivating that sense of compassion and forgiveness and gentleness further into the self when there are moments where
Mhm.
maybe, yeah, like maybe you choose the chocolate instead of the tea or you choose the,
I'm like, it's so hard. And it's like
yeah.
kind of funny because it's like such an innocent thing. Like you think most people will be like, no, you're fine. Like, why would you react to chocolate? Like everyone has chocolate. Like it's such a like innocent thing and it's like healthy. And like kind of in my poem I wrote about like, it's like has all these health benefits and it's like a heart opener and like clears your pineal gland. There's like so many things. So you think, oh, like, you
Hmm.
know, but then it's for me, like I'm different, we're all different and we all like have different relationships to things. So for one person that may be like the medicine, for someone else it may be not so.
Hmm.
So for me, I'm like, okay, this is just the reality that like it's kind of not the best for me. So I need to like accept that. But yeah,
Hmm.
forgive myself for giving in to the delicious chocolate I had. I had like
Hmm.
a chocolate, this Buddha chocolate bar thing with mint. It was like so good. And I was like, oh my God, this is so good. I wish I could just like eat this every day.
Hmm.
But then I was like, oh no, never mind.
Hmm.
Now I'm like, it's like my joints or yeah, I'm
Hmm.
in a lot of pain, but I know
Hmm.
like I'll be okay. I've gone through this before. Like I just have to like now really take care of myself and
Hmm.
she'll be okay. I
Hmm.
definitely have to forgive myself because there's a part of me that's still like, ah, like, why did you do this?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
it's okay.
That's like telling the inner child not to have the cookie that the inner child really wants to have.
Yeah. Like, why
Yeah.
can't I just have the cookie?
Yeah. Yeah, which I think that's where like it can, like I said, be like more of a like a very deep inner exploration that happens when you are really honoring, like, let's say food sensitivities, or you're honoring different allergies, or just can be so many things that might change your relationship to like soothing yourself for what you're stepping into, to
Mhm.
continue to like create that sense of, what could like replace the chocolate. Because I feel like for me at one point it was like more on the level of, let's say, like smoking weed would be like the go-to of just like stepping in, and that would be like the soothing. But then I had to like replace the weed with tea at one point because it wasn't sustainable to keep having
Mhm.
that same pattern in that relationship, even though at one point it was like a source of pleasure, or it was a source of soothing me and supporting me. It started to change, and I had to almost like consciously continue to replace the joint with the tea.
Mhm.
It's kind of like building a new neural network and a new neural pathway of, the
Mhm.
more you do it, the stronger it becomes. And then it almost kind of like shifts, because it is also our willpower. Like we have to really hone in on our willpower in these moments of what we're choosing, and consciously like directing ourselves to. And sometimes it is uncomfortable and it doesn't always feel good, but it's like training a new muscle of choice, and training a
Mhm.
new muscle of like how to hold ourselves through different complex human experience.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So do you have a question in relation to any of that, or was it more just like a comment?
Mm. Yeah, I guess I just wanted to share that. And yeah, I'm like, there's people, yeah. Uh, addiction is, yeah, it's kind of like a theme right now in my family too. So I'm like, wow, like
Mm,
I'm so lucky that I have this like awareness that I don't actually have like a chronic addiction to something. It's like once in a while, but then I'm reminded like that's not sustainable. Um,
mhm,
I can like see and understand the perspective of like other like family members who have addiction, and then I'm like, I want to support them and try to help them to replace to somehow like, help them. But honestly, that's not really in my control, but at least by taking care of myself, I don't know, finding ways to bring more awareness. Or anyways, that's a whole other theme. So
mhm. Yeah,
um
totally.
gotta take care of ourselves.
Yeah, definitely, especially with addictive patterns, because I think the the addictive pattern is more on the level of like escapism versus dropping in and going into work through or work with what's present.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, because it's not actually liberating to be in the addiction. Like it might feel liberating in the moment that you're doing it because it's giving you like a temporary sense of relief and a temporary sense of shift in consciousness or experience. But like that level of like letting the spirit come back into the body and then experiencing the physical world from that place of
Hmm.
um working through the emotions and actually giving the spirit the space to express, or to feel and to be.
Hmm.
That's like a different level of actually like moving through and coming back into alignment with pleasure, sensuality, and connection, and the body in a way that's, I don't think, ever going to be fully possible if you just stay in the addictive pattern.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Hmm. Yeah. I'll have to get off the call probably in a couple of minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, we're almost done. I just want to check in with everyone else if there's any questions or comments coming through from anyone else. Anyone in the chat if you'd like to ask a question. Mm, okay. Well, yeah. You're welcome, Annie. I'm so glad you made it. Yeah, I'm glad you made it. Um, so yeah, I know it's hard to generalize this. Oh, yay, Jalen, I'm glad. Um, yeah, it's like I feel like one little tiny seed in the whole scope of our reality that we get to navigate and figure out individually. But I do hope it plants some seeds of support and perspective. And just knowing your nervous system is seeking to come back into harmony, and our biology is like naturally attuned to being in a state of homeostasis. So we do want to, I think, continually come back to that space. It's just we need the time to actually figure out what that really feels like and looks like too at the same time. So yeah, sometimes it's okay to give yourself as much time as you need to with anything that I shared and to just explore it in your own time and in your own way. But yeah, no rush. And if anything that I'm saying isn't landing or it's not necessarily resonating, then you can just put it aside and yeah, take only that which resonates and work with it. Um, but yeah, thank you for being here live. It's nice to have some people come through live. So I appreciate your presence and yeah, your willingness to show up and explore these things together. So I'll end it there for today. We're actually like good on timing. I thought we'd go over timing, but I'm gonna end it there. So we're at the hour. And yeah, well, I'll be in touch. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much for
for
being here.
having us
Thanks so
Yeah,
much.
in space.
yeah,
Thank you,
no worries.
Angela.
You're welcome, Jalen. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Liliana. Thank you, Annie. And Curtis left earlier, but thank you, Curtis. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Talk
Bye.
soon.
Yeah, take care.
Be in the flow.
Yeah, see y'all soon.